Oh, the attendees are picking up.
I should have made that extra big.
1 minute.
Hey, Sandy, I'm going to turn myself into an attendee, so I'm not
Okay.
part of the panel. Okay.
Okay.
You might have to do that for me.
Okay. Okay, I have 6 o'clock. Welcome and thanks for joining us this evening for our COVID-19 Resources for Our Communities webinar series. I am Sandy Ratliff with Virginia Community Capital, and we are a proud partner with the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development and the Virginia Small Business Development Center Network to host these weekly sessions. Our objective is to share some of the latest resources and tips to help businesses through this community and communities during this pandemic. Before we get started, I want to let you know that our objective is to keep you within the 1 hour time frame, and so everyone is muted at this time. However, we do want to hear from you, and I know that our presenters want to hear back from you and ask questions. So if you will, put those questions in the Q&A section or in the chat feature, and we will be sure to get to those at the end of the session. We have the A team today for our lineup of government partners to share some of the latest programs and developments that are happening with regards to the COVID-19 virus. Joining us today is Jody Keenan. Jody is the Managing Director of the Mason Enterprise Center and State Director of the Virginia Small Business Development Centers Network that is hosted by George Mason University. And I'm sure Jody will tell you more about the Small Business Development Center Network. Also up on is Rebecca Rowe. She is the Associate Director of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development's Community Revitalization Office. You couldn't say that very often with peanut butter in your mouth. Glad to have her and have her as a partner. Also joining us is Ann Hearing at the community. She's the Community Solution Specialist with USDA Rural Development. And then Stephen Versen is manager of the Office of Agriculture and Forestry Department with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Also, I see joining us today is our friend Carl Noblick with the SBA Virginia. And Carl, glad to have you as part of our team. So thank you on joining us today. And I'm going to turn it over to Jody that you can take over.
Great, very much. I'm up here. I'm sorry, guys. Let me move this. Okay, thank you, Sandy. Good evening, everyone. As Sandy said, I'm Jody Keenan with the Virginia Small Business Development Center Network. We are a partnership program with the Small Business Administration. So we receive funding, support, and assistance from SBA. And we provide business advising and training to small companies around the Commonwealth. We have 27 locations. We are still open for business. We're doing all of our advising and training remotely by phone and email and using web platforms like we're doing tonight. So you can certainly visit our website at virginiasbdc.org to find an office near you for and to find an advisor to connect with to help you through whatever challenges or opportunities you're facing these days. I'm going to give you an update today on two of the financing assistance programs that are available, which is the EIDL program and the Advance, and also the Paycheck Protection Program. So this slide, if you can see it, I hope. I know that the print is kind of small, and I'll say that the deck will be presented to you afterwards so you can reference it at your leisure. And then there is a link to the SBA website where the details of these programs are also available. So first, let me talk about the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the Advance. This program is administered directly by SBA. You apply for these funds directly to the SBA website, and you will get, if you're approved, you will get funding through from SBA through the Department of Treasury, the U.S. Treasury. One caveat to be aware of today is that as of today, this program is on hiatus, I would say. There was, as you know, last week, a new influx of funding, and SBA is considering all of the applications that are already in queue. So as of today, you're not able to apply. It's not open for applications until they get through all of the applications that are in the queue. And then, as I understand, if there are still resources available, they'll open the program back up. So nevertheless, it's worth knowing about in the event that program opens back up. So the features of this program are the Advance, which is up to $10,000. That is a grant. It's forgivable. You don't pay it back. It is based on the number of employees in your company. A full-time employee equals a part-time employee as far as headcount goes. So it's $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. You request this advance by completing the full EIDL application. And then the end question of the EIDL application is, do you want the advance? You check yes, and you present or provide rather your bank information, your routing number, and your account number. So the EIDL loan, the way you go about applying that, again, is you go to the SBA website. The maximum dollar amount is $2 million. Before the program went into hiatus, SBA had been looking at funding 2 months of working capital up to $15,000. And they put that limit on the program in order to allow as many businesses as possible to receive some funding. So as I understand, you may be approved for more money, but they're going to allocate it in increments of $15,000. And again, that may change if they open up the program again. Small businesses are eligible applicants, so any organization with less than 500 employees, sole proprietors, LLCs, independent contractors, and also 501c3s and faith-based organizations are eligible. The use of proceeds is pretty broad. As you can see, payroll, rent, utilities, accounts payable, interest on debt. No collateral for loans up to $25,000. No personal guarantee for loans up to $200,000. So very accessible, if you will, for small businesses. The interest rate is 3.75% for for-profit businesses, and it's 2.75% for nonprofits, and that is missing on the slide. The term is up to 30 years. And again, the advance portion of that is up to $10,000, depending on the number of employees, and that's forgiven. So you don't pay that back. You're eligible to get the advance, even if you were to be declined for the full EIDL loan. So that was an attractive feature of the EIDL. And again, you can go onto the SBA website and monitor that over the next couple of days to see if they're able to reopen that program. The next program that came out of the CARES Act is the Paycheck Protection Program, the P3, the PPP. And this program is intended really to help companies keep employees on your payroll and to keep them paid so that you've got a workforce to support your operation now and also as you are reopening or expanding back into your normal operating business. This loan is offered and provided by an SBA 7A lender. So you're going to work with your bank. The recommendation is that you approach your current bank that you have an established relationship with. If that lender is not in the 7A, the SBA 7A program, then you need to find a bank or a lender who is. There are a few banks, I should say, who are looking at non-customers. Virginia Community Capital is a 7A lender who is open to non-borrowers, or non-business clients. So you might keep that in mind if you need to find a bank. The way they calculate or determine the loan amount that you are applying for is looking at 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And that's over a period of, looking at the period of 2019, those average payroll costs. It is maxed at $100,000 per employee when you're looking at the payroll calculation. But the loan itself, you could borrow up to $10 million through this. Again, small business eligibility is businesses less than 500 employees. There is some waiving of that requirement for businesses in the NAICS Code 72, which are restaurants, accommodations, hospitality-related businesses. And again, 501c3 businesses organizations and faith-based organizations are eligible. Again, the primary intent of this program is to support payroll. So the use of the proceeds is heavily focused on payroll. The feature of the PPP that is the most compelling and most appealing is that you're eligible to have this whole loan forgiven. So 100% of the loan could be forgiven, provided that you maintain staffing and compensation levels, so payroll, over an 8-week period of time. And that 8-week period begins from the day the loan is dispersed from the bank. 75% of the total proceeds need to be spent on payroll in order to be 100% forgiven. And there are prorates if that percentage is less than 75%. There's no collateral for this loan. There's no personal guarantee for this loan. And again, you don't need to demonstrate that you have access to capital from another source. For portions of the loan that are not forgiven, so if you don't spend if you don't spend 75% or more of the proceeds on payroll and you need to repay the loan or a portion of the loan, that interest rate is 1%. The term is over 2 years, and there is a 6-month deferment built into that as well. So this is a very attractive product and is, again, really intended to help businesses keep payroll and cover operational expenses during that 8-week period of time. If you are looking for a lender, they're certainly open for business. They just opened yesterday at 10:30. SBA started accepting applications from lenders. So with as soon as you can and get your documents prepared, because this second tranche of funds is expected to go quickly as well. You've likely heard that a portion of the PPP funding was set aside for community development financial institutions and smaller community banks. So in order to encourage and allow them to provide funding access to small businesses. So the smaller community banks are recommended for small companies to approach with applications if you haven't already done that. I will close it at that and just encourage you to ask questions through the chat feature, and we'll cover those as we go along. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. I will turn it over to Rebecca Rowe at the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Thank you. You know, every single time I log into one of these, I have to remember how to do all of the things. Okay, so I am here, of course, with the Department of Housing and Community Development today. I'm going to talk briefly about some of our resources in general, and then some that are specific to the current economic crisis. And, you know, a lot of our resources, because our funding goes to localities or to Main Street organizations, so to intermediaries for that local disbursement to small businesses. Those are really the resources that I'll be talking about today, as well as just some best practices and technical assistance as well. So DHCD, we do a lot of capacity building, technical assistance, best practices, and training. All of those are free, of course, but we like to think of them as priceless. So we'll start with the CDBG resources, which as far as the COVID-19 response is probably our largest pot of money. CDBG has reprogrammed just a little bit, or not even necessarily reprogrammed, but is placing a greater emphasis on those activities that would support the current economic crisis. So construction or rehab of structures that can be used as shelters, testing, or equipment manufacturing. Training programs for healthcare workers or service industry jobs, especially in helping those people to transition to pharmaceutical type work. Acquisition costs for telework or telemedicine services, and then job creation or business development for the manufacturing of material supplies or equipment. Think PPE, but there may be other things that you can be producing as well. CDBG funds, of course, go directly to localities and only to those non-entitlement communities. If you have questions about that particular program, Matt Weaver or Rachel Jordan, listed there at the bottom of the screen, are going to be your primary contacts there. In the Community Revitalization Office, excuse me, two of our programs that we recently extended the deadlines for. The first is Community Business Launch, and this is a grant program that provides funding to localities, Main Street organizations, nonprofits, and so on, to do a series of small business development classes for your local entrepreneurs and small business community. And this can be for people who are currently maybe working out of their home, or people who are already in business and looking to expand potentially into new product line or a new service line. Go through the classes. By the end of the classes, they write a business plan, they do a pitch, and then grant awards are made. Some of the great things about this program is establishing a cohort of new small businesses, as well as mentorship networks. So we love the Community Business Launch program, and we extended that deadline to August 17th. If you have any questions about that, you can get in touch with me. Likewise, the Industrial Revitalization Fund grant program, that deadline has been extended to July 31st. And these are for building one community for applicants site. A minimum of 30% commercial. So we are looking at commercial or mixed properties that have a high degree of blight, where there's a significant degree of and the capacity building,
This
best
meeting is being
practices, and
recorded.
training that we offer around that program. We have a blog at virginiamainstreet.com. We keep that relatively up to date. Well, I should say the blog page is very up to date. We post new blogs. At this point, we are averaging approximately 2 to 3 per week. And we also added the COVID-19 resources selection there to try to be a clearinghouse of some of this information. I know over the last several weeks, information has been flying furious and fast at us. And so we try to break it down by industry type, as well as where those funds are coming from and how they can be used. But you can also take a look at that training resources tab. So any training that we have done as a Main Street network over the last several years, webinars can be accessed there, PowerPoint presentations, and so on. So that's a really great clearinghouse of information as well. And anytime we have a grant announcement, a training announcement, anything like that, you're going to see it on this page. So I really encourage you to follow us at virginiamainstreet.com for the most up-to-date information. And a few of the resources that we have on our page right now are from the Main Street America Network. They have been doing a series of webinars, and all of these, you will note the dates are in the past, but you can access the YouTube presentations through our website that directs you to their website. They also recently completed a survey of small businesses around the country. And the map that you see there, you can really focus on the state. You can even drill down to the locality if you click on that map and zoom in on those localities. Out of more than 6,000 resources, look at those statistics from the state of Virginia. It's really interesting data, and if you represent a locality or a small business, this information can help support you in any grants that you are writing or funding that you're trying to procure as a part of that. Some other things on our blog right now. This is Ashley Kirschner. She's the executive director with the Downtown Lynchburg Association, and they recently presented a CARES Act webinar for their small business community, not just for those businesses in their Main Street district, although that is their focus, but this webinar was available to anyone who wanted to tune into that. Jenny Crittenden with Gloucester Main Street has written the tips for independent businesses working with your landlord and a game plan for success during the COVID-19 crisis. And Jenny really has an expertise in commercial real estate, both in buying, selling, as well as rental agreements. So she has put together a great resource. If you are a small business, and you are currently renting, you'll want to take a look at this to see how to approach your landlord as far as what your financial concerns are right now, but also recognizing that they have financial concerns at this point as well. So those are a few things on the website. I wanted to focus too on some of the more interesting things we're seeing around the state as far as connecting organizations and individuals with some of the small businesses. Machida is a restaurant in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and they have been focusing very much on the essential workers and the first responders in their community. So if you live in Harrisonburg, or if you are tuned into this webinar and you want to go onto Machida's website, you can buy lunch or dinner for these essential workers or these first responders. Similarly, in Orange, Virginia, they have put together this meal train, again, for those essential workers and the first responders. And this money goes directly to the local restaurants. So I like to think of this as a win-win-win. This allows us to have some agency in how we do our philanthropy at that hyper-local level. It's also supporting those essential workers and the first responders and supporting the local restaurants at the same time. So I absolutely love these initiatives. I also wanted to point out the Virginia Main Street Network. We have a closed Facebook group called the Virginia Main Street Network, and this is a great place for you to network with other small businesses, localities, community redevelopment organizations, economic developers around the state to get an idea of what they are working on, what they are seeing. We have a saying in Main Street, R&D for us is rip off and duplicate. So if you're just getting started with a revolving loan fund or a small grant program, there's no need for you to come up with all of that from scratch. Jump on the Facebook page, ask your questions, and I am certain you will get a response. One thing that I love about this community is the professional generosity of everyone involved. Also on our blog, I wanted to again point out the excuse me, training resources section. So we recently excuse me, I'm going to have to take a drink in a second, had a webinar with Kathy Frazier on upper story housing development. And the follow-up to that, part 2, will be tomorrow. If you're interested in participating in that webinar, you can catch up on part 1 by going to that webinar recording. You can also go to our blog to register for the second webinar. And the selection there from April 16th, Communicating to Main Street During Crisis, that was with Ben Muldrow of Arnett Muldrow. And I will tell you that that webinar was very, very well received by both our organizations and small business owners. He has really pulled together some creative resources. Also wanted to point out one of our more recent blogs there on March 30th, Nonprofit and Community Partners. That was written by Katie Davis with Center for Nonprofit Excellence. So we really endeavor to make this blog and website very relevant for our users, whether you are a locality, a small business, or a nonprofit organization. We know that Main Street is a very broad umbrella, and so there is a lot of information that we are sifting through and trying to push out to everyone. So I really recommend that you follow us there. I can't help myself. Every time I see one of these great new pivots in a small business, I really want to highlight it for people. Again, whether you're a locality, a business, or a nonprofit organization, I just think it's great information to see how creative people are being right now and to think creatively yourselves. So this one is from River City Food Tours here in Richmond. couple of my favorite people. And just like their business sounds, they give food tours here in the city. They also have a Petersburg food tour. And this is for restaurants in the area. They have a Carytown edition, they have a dessert edition, and so on. When we all get back into restaurants, I highly recommend these guys. But look what they've done here. So restaurants are closed right now. We're not able to sit down and experience those restaurants and experience company in the same way. So they have put together Discover Richmond boxes. They are going to these small food producers, buying the food from them. So nothing is being donated, everything is being purchased. And then they put together this box. You can order the box. They have their sales cutoff date there, and then they will deliver that to you here locally. So this is just a great pivot for them that is supporting them as a business. It is supporting a number of other local businesses. And it's a great way, again, to experience that sense of community right now. And that is the end of my slides today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And you have several questions that we'll get to later, or you can check them out in the Q&A section and we'll share with the others. Next up is Ann Hearing with the USDA Rural Development. I got tongue-tied. So, Ann, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, let me start this screen sharing again here, Sandy. How did we do this before? Right here it is. Be sure I get the right one here. All right, y'all got full slide?
Yes, everything's looking good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Hearing with USDA Rural Development, Community Solutions Specialist. And on behalf of our state director, who could not be with us tonight, Elizabeth Green, she sends you hello and greetings from our state level there in Richmond. And as our slide there indicates, rural development is your partner in prosperity. That's somewhat of a new tagline for us, which we'll get to that in a minute. But first, let me thank our great partners at Virginia Community Capital and DHCD, and especially at SBA and the state folks at SBDC and Virginia Department of Ag, and all you guys for putting this on and sharing such great information. We certainly appreciate that opportunity. And also, let me bring greetings from Natural Bridge, Virginia. And I highlight that for a couple reasons, one of which is I am blessed to call that area home. And we are working in a remote work environment. So I am sitting at my dining room table and have been for several weeks. And we are blessed to continue our operations at rural development from our homes and small offices across rural America. So, and how perfect that my great friends at the Lexington Visitor Center, and I think their director is on the line, so they get some great kudos for developing these for us to share as we seem to go more and more virtual these days. I thought, what a great display of the partnerships and the efforts to recover and bring us out of this, and just what a grand idea that was. So Gene and company, hats off to you. So, okay, let me roll right along here, get my navigation going. Wait a minute. Well, what am I doing here? My slides aren't advancing. Let me get over here to the right thing. Maybe I'll have to do something different. All right, here we go. Okay, our mission at Rural Development actually is tweaked just a little bit with the new administration. So let me just fully share that with you. And that is to assist rural communities in creating prosperity so they are self-sustaining and economically thriving through investments that create ladders of opportunity, build regional resilience, and support the growth of emerging markets. And we do that from pretty close to 50 different loan grants and guaranteed programs and products, which we'll get to that shortly. But let me emphasize the word rural. We are only for rural America. We do not go in the urban areas, only in very unique situations. So we'll emphasize that. And let me also overemphasize that we are rural development, one of about 17 different agencies under the umbrella of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So we will focus in on our programs for tonight, but there are many, many others under that USDA umbrella, which I'll share that website shortly. So we are actually a mission area with 3 different agencies in it: the Rural Business Cooperative Service, Rural Housing Service, and the Rural Utility Service, which I'll touch on them. So I think it's important, if you're not aware of what we do, that you'll at least have the 10-cent version of that, and we'd love to tell you more about that after tonight. So we are, of course, a federal agency. Our headquarters is in the national office in Washington, D.C. We have 4 regions. We're in the Northeast, and 47 state offices and close to 400 area offices. Here in Virginia, we have 4 main area offices, and that's down in Whiteville, Lynchburg, Harrisonburg, and Portland. And then we have sub-area offices and satellite offices and various things all across. So we're blessed to have that field structure that allows us to do what we do out here in rural America. So this is the link to what we call our matrix of all of our programs, all, like I said, close to 50. It's a great document that, and matter of fact, I should just have made that available at least to look at it, but it's broken down by not only category of the program, but the type applicant, the type entities that are eligible to make application. The rurality is a word of ours that describes the rural nature. We do have population limits, all the programs do, and they vary. We don't just have one answer to that. So I encourage you to pull that up as time allows. And here we are back to our program descriptions. Real briefly, let me catch up with my notes here, get ahead of myself. Got it on autopilot, you know how that goes. So we typically offer loan grants and guarantees, and most all of the programs in some varied format or other. Guarantees are typically the most abundant dollars, and those are actually made by one of our approved lenders in partnership with them, and they actually loan the money back with a guarantee from us, so that enables us to do that much more. We also have direct loans that come straight from the U.S. Treasury, and then grants. And of course, grants naturally are free monies with strings attached, performance standards, and all things like that. And typically grants are of a smaller overall allocation. It's important for you to know that in fiscal year 2019, which ended last September, we cranked a little over $1 billion into Virginia's rural economy, just Virginia now. And we did that with a little over 60 people. So we're right proud of that. And it takes a village of all of us to be able to pull that off, and our partners. So again, we thank you all for that. So let me, getting ahead of myself. Real briefly, let me describe each of our agencies. Our Rural Business and Cooperative Service helps to strengthen communities and create jobs by building competitive businesses. Have a variety of programs that provide financial backing and technical assistance to stimulate business creation and growth. So it's all about the jobs, either the keeping thereof or the increasing thereof. These programs work through partnerships with public and private community-based organizations and financial institutions to provide not only financial assistance, but business development, technical assistance, and the like. And some of the more popular ones that you may be familiar with are our business and industry guaranteed loans. Again, guaranteed loans made by one of our approved lenders for business and industry type reasons. We have energy programs in this, cooperative programs where businesses that function as a cooperative of members fall under this umbrella, and our value-added producer grant program, which is a value added for agricultural producers. So that's very popular. Next is our rural housing service. We are in the housing business in a big way with our single-family housing home ownership program. So we have a direct program as well as a guaranteed program. And matter of fact, that's probably our largest amount of funding comes under that guaranteed single-family housing. Very low to a moderate income family or applicant to become a happy homeowner through the program. And again, the guaranteed component of that is combined with one of our approved lenders. So we're income existing homeowners only for typically for health or safety standard removals, things such as that. We also have a multifamily housing program. We have about 250 complexes across the state that are on a portfolio because, guess what? Not everybody wants to be a homeowner. So we all one additional program under the Rural Housing Service is our Community Facilities Program. Those are essential community services that hit all of us. And there are hospitals, health clinics, schools, daycares, firehouses, emergency services, rescue, community centers, all that, you name it, anything that typically there are local governments or perhaps some type of a regional, any kind of a government entity or nonprofits that serve all of us as citizens would fall under that umbrella. So we do a lot with that. Next is our rural utility service, and that program provides much needed infrastructure or infrastructure improvements to rural communities, and that can include water, waste treatment, electric power, and telecommunication services. And it also has our distance learning and telemedicine component to it. And my heavens, we certainly know how important that is at this moment in time if we didn't before. And many, many years ago, gosh, getting close to probably a century ago now, our agency ran electric and telephone wires all across rural America, and we're under that same scenario right now with broadband. So we do a lot with that, and again, couldn't get along without our partners that make that happen. So let me segue now into our COVID-19 measures and activities. Of course, we have a separate website dedicated departmentally for the U.S. Department of Agriculture as well as rural development for efforts centered around the COVID-19. And there are daily updates. Looks like something just comes out all the time, not only for the press, but for our lenders. Again, I say a lot of our programming is in partnership with our approved lenders, so important information coming out for them as well as rural communities. And since we are a lender, if you compared us to a bank, we would be one of the largest in the country. So as that, we do naturally have a portfolio, a loan portfolio with borrowers and people that owe us money that we have to service those loans and collect that debt, just like any other lending institution. And we have frequently asked questions for all of them. We have kicked our servicing in high gear with many options that exist normally, let alone additional ones that have been highlighted and enhanced as a result of the recovery efforts. We also have links to, again, I mentioned that the departmental page. So I hope you'll look at all that. All those links are centered around the recovery efforts now for our rural communities. And we'll do federal rural resource, let me again emphasize rural resource guide that is the compilation of all federal resources that can assist with some of the recovery efforts. So again, that's on our departmental page. Hope you'll look at that. And dollars that we have been blessed to receive in the CARES Act, three different components there. One is our business and industry guaranteed loan program. We have $20.5 million coming our way in that program. We don't know the particulars yet. It's still at office management and budget, and we'll probably release next. The original target was late April, but as soon as we have it, we'll let you know. But it's anticipated that those will be smaller guaranteed loans by nature, but perhaps a longer term than they normally have, and perhaps even a deferral. So stay tuned on that. We'll certainly get that word out as quickly as we can. Next is our Reconnect program. That's our broadband pilot. We've received an additional $100 million for grants in that, and it is anticipated that those will go to priority, or priority will be given for grant applicants that were unfunded in round one, which we're working through now. So stay tuned on that, but we were blessed in our first round earlier to bring in about $79 million just to Virginia alone. So again, thank you to our partners for assisting us, because we couldn't do it without you. Distance learning and telemedicine, that window is currently open. We've received an additional $25 million. We're doing a webinar on that. That's May the 13th, I believe it is. And again, I say, if you do not know the importance of distance learning and telemedicine, we all certainly know that now. There are many great examples of projects, and not only in Virginia, but all across the country. So it is our hope that you all will help us bring more than our fair share of those dollars to Virginia. And here's all of our contact stuff, our national website, the National Corona page. We are on Twitter, both as a state as well as nationally. So we hope you'll follow us on there, especially on our Virginia page, so we can link in with our partners. The red envelope is our Virginia Gov delivery subscription. You probably noticed that at the bottom of our email signatures. That's how we deliver all of our information. We've made a big effort the last few years to have varied categories in that by subject matter. So if you have not subscribed, please do so. Please let me know and I'll send that straight to you. Here's our online Virginia staff directory. I only highlight that because we've always had that, but feel compelled to kind of overemphasize that is available on our state website. And as we remain in this remote work environment, it's important for you to be able to reach our folks. So that's how you can do that. And with that, I will wrap up, but again, with some thanks from our State Director, Beth Green, and certainly appreciate all the efforts of everyone, let alone our partners in crime, but folks that have sat down on a Tuesday evening to hear the message and figure out which direction we go next, and some exciting times, and we look forward to being a part of it. So Sandy, we'll turn it back over to you, and many thanks.
Thanks, Ann. Appreciate that. Each time you've given this, I learned something new. Last up is Stephen Versen. Stephen is with the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Stephen, I will turn it over to you.
Great, Sandy. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone tonight. So my name is Stephen Versen. I'm the manager of the Office of Agriculture and Forestry Development, which is a small office at Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. We are probably best described as the economic development arm for the Department of Agriculture. It's our job to help businesses that are somehow related to food, forestry, or agriculture access all the different resources that are out there, some of which you heard about tonight. What I wanted to do with the presentation was talk a little bit about how how some of the funds, all these programs you're hearing about, how they relate and react to what's happening currently. So we've heard a lot about the U.S. CARES Act, and we've had some excellent presentations on there. It's important to note, because there's a lot of questions about what ag businesses are or not eligible for that program. They're all eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program. However, the EIDL is only available to certain agribusinesses, agriculture cooperatives, wineries, not the growing component of the wine. They have been replenished or are going fast. There was, we've heard from USDA, and there's been a significant amount of money that's come out to go through. They're excellent. So this is kind of very exciting, this coronavirus food assistance program, which has recently been announced. The majority of that money, $16 billion, which is a lot of money, is going directly to support producers who have suffered market loss through coronavirus-related disruptions. People can access that program by working through their USDA Farm Service Agency. There is also the USDA Purchase and Distribution Program through that program. This is sort of a neat thing that USDA is doing. One of the big concerns with the sort of evaporation of a lot of consumer demand because of COVID is what happens to our supply chain, specifically our food supply chain. And this program is seeking to sort of keep that supply chain working. So when things come out, it'll still be in good shape. They have put $300 billion to this program, and they're going to award about $300 million a month to different companies that apply for it. And they are going to commit to sourcing meat, produce, or some combination of those products and dairy products, source them, package them into boxes, and then deliver those boxes of goods to food banks and folks in need. I believe the application for that was just released and on a very expedited time frame. So we hope to have some awards announced for that soon. We're keeping our fingers crossed that some of the people getting that money will be in Virginia, because they'll then be able to support various producers through that program. There's also a whole bunch of other USDA funding going out to help with food banks and administrative costs, food costs, etc. So let's talk about what's happening at VDACs. So, we often get confused with USDA, but the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, different organization, just operates here at the state level. A lot of interaction we've had is related to this COVID-19 crisis has been our work in helping communities interpret the governor's executive orders related to social distancing, to reducing certain activities, closing the restaurants, closing some of the things affecting grocery stores, etc. Of course, everyone's heard about farmers markets, what activities at farmers market are allowed and which aren't. The agency's put a lot of resources and a lot of time into putting together a very comprehensive page of resources. The COVID-19 resources page, the link is here. You'll be able to access that when these presentations are sent out to participants, or you can just go to VDACs and it's the top banner. And it seeks to answer all those questions that have come out. Something that I'm particularly excited about that we are doing in response to the COVID-19 crisis is through our APHID planning grant program. So the APHID is short for the Governor's Agriculture and Forestry Industries Development Fund, the AFID, or the APHID fund. There's two components to it. One part, which is what's most well known and has remained unchanged, is the APHID Facility Grant Program. This is an economic development tool for local governments looking to attract or expand ag-based businesses in their community. And it's a traditional economic development incentive grant where a company considering locating or considering expansion commits to new jobs, new investments, and for our program to buy a certain amount of Virginia-grown products. In exchange, they receive grant funds from us, matched by the locality. But what I wanted to talk today was another component of that program called the APHID Planning Grant. This is a very different program. It was designed to award small grants to local governments to encourage them to do a wide range of activities to support ag and forest producers in that county, in that region. And these are grants, $20,000 to individual locality, $35,000 to a regional application that can do a whole host of things, feasibility studies, look at land preservation, establishing ag development boards. But what we are hoping communities will consider doing is accessing this fund to support some of the innovative things happening at the local level to support our small ag producers. Farmers, these small and medium-sized farmers who have relied primarily on direct sales to customers or direct sales to restaurants, are some of the ones that are being most deeply affected by this. And in response, many communities are doing some very innovative things. I think we've all seen some of the neat ways our farmers markets are responding to the new reality by doing drive-through markets, by developing more robust online platforms, helping with storage, helping with last mile delivery, all the different ways communities are helping our small producers connect again with their customers. These are some of the activities we want to be able to support through the APHID Planning Grant Program. We will soon be officially rolling out this new program, and it's got some new guidelines that we hope will make it more worthwhile and more usable by our communities. The program has always required a dollar-for-dollar match from the applicant localities. However, we've recently changed that to allow up to half of that local match to come from funds other than the applicant community. We count funds from federal groups, nonprofit groups, foundations, other organizations that are committing to that same project to count as up to half the match. And if you're an economically distressed locality, which we consider about half the localities in Virginia as economically distressed, up to 90% of that local match can come from these other sources. So your ask of the county or this is not all that much. It's only 10% of all the match. So we're hopeful that when that is officially released, maybe in the next week or two, that communities will respond and they will be able to use those funds to implement some of these really innovative strategies we're seeing on the ground. And lastly, we have put together a financial resources document. We've always had one that includes all the primary resources that ag businesses can access, but we've added some COVID-19 related resources on there as well. And last thing I wanted to mention is that we are in the middle of Virginia's Farmers Market Week. This is a neat thing we've done. We've partnered with Virginia Tourism to promote Virginia farmers markets and to let everybody know that yes, they are still open, and yes, they're still wonderful, and you should still make plans to visit them, even though they may be operating in a slightly different fashion. Here's a great picture here. The woman in the car is Bettina Ring. She's our Secretary of Ag and Forestry, and she's out there doing her part to support her local farmers market. So you can find your local market at thevirginiagrown.com or some of the other resources that are out there. But we encourage you all to go out and reach out to your producers. My contact information is at the top. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and we look forward to working with you all through this pandemic to support our producers as best we can. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thanks so much, Stephen. I really appreciate you joining us this evening, and all of our panelists, because I know you have so many things going on. One of the folks that we have joining us is Carl Naubick with the SBA. Carl, would you like to share anything while folks are hopefully posting any questions they may have? You're on mute.
Thank you, Sandy, for inviting me to be a part of this. And always great working with Virginia Community Capital, especially you over the years. It's great. My good buddy. Actually, Jody did a great job explaining things. USDA, our partners, working together now to really push out this payroll protection plan. The one thing I want to stress to everyone is that from the economic injury disaster loan advance, the up to $10,000, there will be money available with that when it opens. It's just we have to go through that process to process things through. The other thing is that Jody talked about the $15,000. That has changed now that they have the full amount. What people are asking for, they can pursue because of this money coming in. On the payroll protection plan, it's been a lot of people have written in the news that the SBA system is broken, traffic's moving too slow. What's actually happened was after the first round, Congress broke the funds down. So community banks would have a better chance of getting funding in that. So to give you an idea, the community banks were allocated for $30 billion. As of 2 o'clock today, $28 billion have been spent by them. And people are saying, oh, no, they're not going to have any more money. No, they're going to actually pull money from the larger banks and move it over into them so they can still keep lending to the rural communities and the smaller urban areas where they have the small banks at locality. So that's kind of an overview of what's going on. The bigger banks will probably jump in the pool on the payroll protection. Probably Wednesday on, you'll start seeing the bigger banks pushing again. Thank you, Sandy, for letting me be a part of this.
Thanks so much, and I'm glad to have you. I don't see any questions at the moment. Just to let you know that I do plan to send out a copy of the slide deck of our presenters for everyone to have in your information. I want to mention too that I hope you'll make plans to join us on Friday at noon. Our next webinar will be with Virginia Tourism Corporation, and we'll have Work Comfrey, Steve Gallion, and Becky Nave. You know, the tourism industry in Virginia is among the hardest hit industries as a result of the COVID-19, and they are going to share some of the latest impact data, most current business assistance resources, and some of the Virginia's destinations that can appropriately promote during the pandemic. So I hope that you will plan to join us. As always, you can go to the Virginia Community Capital's website and find out registration information about not only this webinar, but others that are coming online. And you can also see the webinar up on Virginia Community Capital's Facebook page if you would like to watch that or share it with one of your colleagues or business associates. So I still don't see any questions. Any other comments that any of our panelists would like to share before we end the session? Going once?
No, thanks, Sandy. No, I don't have any comments.
Okay. Good. Well, with that, thank you. And again, thanks to all of our panelists. It takes time to put these webinars together, and I hope you appreciate what they're doing and the hours they're putting in. But again, thanks for coming, and I hope to see you again soon at another webinar that we're hosting. Thanks, partners, and I hope everybody has a good evening.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.